Hey guys, so I decided to make another video since not many of us have run around Watkins before. Pretty straightforward course as far as the gearing selection goes. I'll try to dictate this while we drive. I'll do my first lap here, just talking about gear choices. I won't pretend to know the corner numbers because I never do, but we'll describe them, and I'm pretty sure we can all sort it out. So the last corner is going to be a fourth gear corner, coming onto the straightaway. Get on throttle as early as possible and just power through. I think the first corner is going to be either fourth or third, depending on your traffic. If you're in any sort of traffic, you're going to need to be in third gear. If you are by yourself, I think you can probably carry enough speed to warrant staying in fourth gear the whole time. Coming up these S's, it's just go through the gears and don't move your right foot. It's all flat for almost 40 seconds or so, however long it takes to get up the hill and to the bus stop. I like to brake in between the 4 and 300 and leave it all in fourth gear, attacking these corners, these curves as much as possible. Again, this is going to be just throttle modulation in fourth gear coming down the carousel, and get on the throttle as early as possible. Another fourth gear corner. This is a downhill braking zone, which makes it a little bit trickier. And again, this might be a third gear corner in a little bit of traffic. If anything is slowing you down, it's just not going to work. Third gear, coming up the toe of the boot. As we do a couple extra laps, we'll talk about some intricacies of each corner. And another third gear corner at the heel of the boot. I like to brake kind of at a little bit of an angle here. Again, another third gear corner. Essentially the whole boot section is all third gear as far as the corners go. And this last little complex, just a little bit of a lift in fourth. Get slowed down enough to make this turn, and ideally try to get a better run than that. Alright, so let's talk about braking zones this time around. Right at the 300 for turn 1 if you're not in traffic. And then just clip the first part of the curbing if you can. And if you don't, then that's alright. Like I said, fourth gear corner unless you're in traffic. The S's is just stay close. I wouldn't get all up on the curbs just simply because it'll upset the car. But if you're within a foot of the curb, you're in good shape. And under no circumstance should you lift. You're better off just dodging cars versus lifting simply because it'll just drain so much speed. Fourth gear through the bus stop complex, just absolutely brutalizing the curbing. A lot of people will be really ginger through there, and that's a good place to pick up a lot of positions. Again, downhill braking zones, you might need to brake a little bit earlier than you're used to. If you can track out all the way over here, it should be pretty quick. And you may or may not need to get into fifth gear by the end of this straight. It just sort of depends. Again, third gear through the toe of the boot. Get on the gas as quickly as possible and just start accelerating. Now we're going to have another third gear corner coming up. I like to brake between the 2 and the 100. A little bit of a diagonal brake down to third gear. Get the car turned, get on the gas a little bit later than usual because this corner kind of goes on forever. And right back on the throttle. a little bit of a lift. You can catch the inside of this. If you don't, then you gotta wait a little bit earlier or a little bit later to get back on the gas. Same with this. If you're handling this corner right, you're going to be in good shape for a long run down the front stretch. And try to use up all the track, giving yourself a little bit of a margin if you can. So again, right at the 300, we're going to go into 4th gear. Kind of overcooked it there. But lots of runoff room over here as long as there's not a car outside of you. So, you can take your risks appropriately. If there's no one around you, you can try to get a little bit more speed out, since there's plenty of space in every direction. Around here, if you're around a car, there's nothing but walls on either side of you, so just do the safe thing and maintain the car. Again, we're going to brake between the 3 and 400, down into 4th gear, jumping all over these curves. And they are bumpy in real life, but again, they're not super bumpy as though you're going to lose control. Now the key about this next upcoming corner is that the braking zone is all uphill. So you can actually brake way later than you think. And just let the let the hill catch you as you throw it in there. It's hard to talk and do all of these things all at once, but so brake uphill, 3rd gear corner. There's way more braking power there than anywhere else the whole course. But that's essentially it. Pretty straightforward track. There's not a lot of mystery here. It's run a good line and you'll be in good shape. Here's the things I want you guys to do when you have a few minutes, because running hot laps isn't really all that useful for the race situation. It helps, sure, but knowing the optimum line is important. But very rarely will you have the optimum line. So what I like to do, because this is a situation that will arise in the real car very often, is just get a good bit of speed going. And we're going to wait till we get up the hill, just because we don't want to be falsely aided by gravity. But just practice modulating the brakes. So clutch in, brake till you hear lock up, and then unbrake. So lock up, let go, and just keep modulating, so that way your right foot just natively learns that when the front is sliding, to lift a little bit. It's really terrifying to be headed straight for a wall and just natively just lift up off the brakes, but that's what you got to do if your front wheels are sliding, and you're not going to do it unless you practice. And super easy to practice here, because tires are free. So we're going to brake. And if you're locking up, just practice lifting it off, lifting off the brake. It's actually one of the last things I do, before an actual race, is just get my foot used to it. Because inevitably if you're braking how you should in a race car, you should be on the verge of locking up, and if you're on the verge, you're gonna lock up sometimes. So if you haven't practiced, just that little hint of a lift off the brakes, go flying into a corner, you're not gonna naturally do it. And it comes super easy to do once you, like I said, once you practice it a bit. It's not a difficult maneuver. It's just getting your brain out of the equation and just letting your right foot do the work for you, or left foot if you're being fancy. Alright, so that's practice tip 1. Again, a lot of this isn't about setting fast laps. If we're running, what do we do here? A 2:12.6 was my second lap, second or third lap. That is ridiculously fast. If we're 2 seconds off of that pace during the race, we'll be in good shape. So we're going to practice the braking. And then the other thing, when you practice some braking, and this I find even more useful, is just running offline. So pretend like there is a car to your right for a lap, pretend like there's a car to your left for a lap, and then pretend like there's a car on the inside of each corner for a lap. I know the distinction is pretty small, but it's there. And then pretend like there's a car to the outside of you on every corner for a lap. So we're on, we're offline here. We're gonna brake later. We gotta avoid the car, so we gotta leave him space. We can't cut that curb because we're leaving him space, but we're still, trying to maximize our speed. Going through the carousel around the outside. Coming down here, we're going to have to brake way earlier because we're braking from a really bad line. And in traffic, it's definitely going to be a third gear corner. Whereas going up the hill, you can actually brake pretty late because, you're not trying to maintain the inside. And you can pass around the outside of this corner simply by out-braking the person. When you come flying in around their outside, most of the time they're just going to give up the corner because nobody thought you would be able to do it. And it's not particularly hard if you've practiced it. So again, brake a little bit later. Modulate the throttle if you're locking them up. Modulate the brakes if you're locking them up. And then progress on. These laps are always going to be slower, but they're far more useful in race situations because you work on visual cues for braking on different lines. And the other thing is, if it's raining, these are going to be the lines that you want to run. Hopefully it doesn't rain this year, but rain's another variable that, it's there, and sometimes you just have to play with it. Alright, so I guess we'll try to do a fast lap again. The far inside curbing of turn 1 is much higher than that first bit of curb. So if you're going to be aggressive and play on the curbs, you want to not be super aggressive because it'll launch the car in the air. Or at least that side of the car, I should say. It's just, it is a really high curb. The first set of ribbing is fine, but you can't be overly aggressive like you can over here, where you can just basically launch the car, in every possible direction. And again, coming down the carousel, there's no braking really involved. It's just stay toward the inside and get on the throttle early. I sort of lost it a little bit there, but brake a little bit later than you want to coming up this hill. The car will get stopped. And then get back on the throttle as quickly as you can down this little short straightaway. Again, brake just after the 200 marker. Third gear corner. You can catch a little bit of that inside curb, that's perfect. Get far back to the outside, a little bit of diagonal. This corner kind of goes on forever, remember? So you can't get on the corner on the gas too early or else you'll be in that wall. And that's really as late as you want to be. I mean, that's halfway in the dirt. Maybe stay out of it for just a smidge longer. So again, that's as reasonable of a lap as you can get. It's another 212 lap. We don't even need to be running 212s to be very competitive. This time we're going to give the car to the outside some space, or to the left. So coming up the S's, you can basically maintain with the car right next to you as long as they're not doing anything crazy. Now again, if anyone's doing anything remotely crazy through the S's, there just isn't space for both of you to be in a mistake there. So if one of you crash and the other one pays the price, you're both going into a big blue heavy wall, and it's gonna suck. So just let the crazy people do their crazy. When you don't have the outside of this corner to work with, you have to wait and wait and wait before you can get back on the throttle. Again, that'll be a huge passing opportunity there, because a lot of cars just don't handle well through that carousel. Coming into this turn, you'll pass a lot of cars when they're braking. Again, a lot of people don't trust the hill to catch them, so if you're just next to a car, just let the hill do your braking for you. Just jump in there really, really late. And this would be a hard corner to go 2x2 through. It's pretty narrow through here, but again, doable as long as you're being reasonable about it. So that's all there is. Again, key things to work on, obviously get the line down a little bit, and then practice that threshold braking where your foot is just modulating the brake input. It doesn't matter which wheel and pedal set you're using or anything like that, just because the car's going to feel different anyways, but you definitely feel the car sliding just in the wheel. All of a sudden the wheel gets really light. Obviously you're going to see smoke everywhere. You're going to hear it also, but it's really, really useful tip just to practice on, because you'll never be blocking up the brakes. I remember in the race car, you're not braking like you do on the street. You're jumping on the brakes hard right when you need them. So if you're not locking up, at least on occasion, then that means that you're lounging through the braking zones a little bit too much. And again, you don't want to do long lockups because it's bad for the tires. You'll get vibration. But if you're all of a sudden you're locking up, just lift up just a hair and the car will get rolling again. You can finish your braking. And as you would always said, take the least expensive option. So if you're gonna miss a corner, just keep braking straight. If you end up in the grass a little bit, then you've ended up in the grass. But if you try to save it and spin and collect a car, so now you've wrecked a car and another car. Just do whatever's going to be least expensive, and usually that just means going straight if you've overcooked a corner. But you should never overcook this corner, because the hill is helping you. So even if you come flying through here, just get on the brakes. It'll be hard to lock up because it's all uphill. You're gaining grip as you're going through. So I think that's enough for now. It's a few laps and my practice routines: braking, inside, outside, left and right, and then hot laps whenever you feel like it. Lastly, if you're bored and you feel like everything is moving too fast, then jump in a really fast car and do some hot laps just to slow the world down when you get back into this thing, because this is no Formula 1 car, that's for sure. Alright, a couple more months to go. See you out there.